The Hyundai Creta has you more or less covered with whatever you might want from a mid-sized SUV. The Hyundai Alcazar's job has been to add that extra dose of practicality and luxury. There's a new one out now, it's a facelift, but let's see what it's like. The Hyundai Alcazar facelift continues to be offered with the same engines as before. These are the 1.5-litre turbo-petrol with 160 PS and 253 Nm, paired with the 7-speed DCT and the 1.5 diesel with 116 PS and 250 Nm with a 6-speed torque converter. There's also a 6-speed manual on offer with both. Now we are driving the Alcazar with the 1.5 turbo-petrol and the DCT. And to be honest, the experience is very similar to the Creta. You wouldn't be surprised, of course, by that. But I must say that even though it's pulling a lot more weight, the engine is still reasonably sprightly. Now, yes, the 0 to 100 time that's claimed of 9.5 seconds is a bit slower than what we've tested the turbo-petrol Creta that ducks under 9. And it feels as such on the move too. You do notice you're pulling along a bit more weight, but it in no way feels labored, so it's still agile. So the engine is still especially refined. And yes, of course, it takes some waking up, but once it does, it has that really smooth, linear power band to it. It's not the most exciting turbo-petrol engine, of course, but it is effective. But it does happen to be quite a refined motor. It's not too loud or clattery at city speeds, and wind noise is well in check at higher speeds as well. You get the drive and traction modes here too, and they work much in the same way as the Creta. The drive modes progressively sharpen engine and gearbox responses, while the traction modes change the responses again, and also the traction control maps to match various terrains. The gearbox, like before, seems quite well matched to the engine. It doesn't feel hesitant at lower speeds and usually has you right where you need to be in the power band. You only really notice it in heavier driving, where it could be a bit more aggressive with its shifts, say during a high-speed overtake, but the sport mode improves this a notch. But for most needs, the default normal mode is good enough. Now, where there is some difference from the Creta is in the way the Alcazar rides and handles. Now, that's obviously because of the longer wheelbase, the 150mm that's been added, and generally the longer length of the car. And also the fact that these top-end versions ride on 18-inch wheels against the 17s in the Creta. Even with the larger wheels, Hyundai has managed to hold on to that good ride that the Creta has become quite well known for with this generation or with this latest update. So say over a broken patch of road like we are on right now, yeah, you do feel it a bit more. The 18-inch wheels, a bit more of it is sort of transmitted into the cabin, so to speak. There is a slightly firmer edge, but it's never uncomfortable or harsh or noisy in here. So if you take it easy, it just sort of does its best to sort of smooth over these imperfections. And yeah, it does have that quite stable, secure feel to it, even on these surfaces. It's got a nice balance between being light for city use, but it's also quite precise, so even on the highway you won't be second guessing yourself too much. So you do notice that it has a bit more stability at higher speeds, doing highway speeds, but again, it's marginal. You'll have to drive both this and the Creta back to back to really notice that. So if you like driving, it's okay for you. If you aren't really interested in all of these things, then that's also fine. It's just a safe, reliable way to sort of get from one place to other. This 2024 Alcazar has grown by 60mm from the last car, although most of it is down to the new cosmetic changes. But it's what Hyundai has done with these dimensions that is more significant. There's now a more noticeable visual differentiation between the Creta and the Alcazar. Yes, the headlamps are largely similar, but just like the Creta N-Line, there's a distinct face here with the wide, horizontal, darkened grille and the different edge pattern themes in the DRLs. Well done, almost in a Kia-like manner, are the various material finishes seen on the grille and bumpers. There's more of this to the side profile, so the bodywork is no different, but there is a more polished feel here with the gloss black glass surrounds and the silver scuff plates in the doors. New are the 18-inch wheels. They are a size up from the standard Creta and get quite a sharp look. The rear has also taken on a fairly unique look. The two-part theme from earlier is carried over, but the full width effect and the vertical light cluster make this section resemble Hyundai's larger global SUVs the most. The accenting that goes with this below the windscreen and bumper creates a sense that this may be a more expensive car. Now, one of the reasons you might want to consider the Alcazar over the Creta or any of these other mid-size SUVs is probably for the boot space. Now, Of course, with all the 3 rows up, it's about 180 liters. So, say your usual grocery run, it'll easily do that. But the real trick is when you sort of fold this third row completely flat. Now, we'll get to the third row in a bit, but this is one of the ways that you use it. Now, when you do it, you notice that it's a completely flat lip here, so it's very easy to just say roll an item right to the end of the space. So, and then you get about 579 liters, which is right on par with some sedans, maybe even more than some sedans. As with the last Alcazar, the dashboard is shared with the Creta. The new color palette with the silver and gloss black highlighting give this space a more classy sense. This also goes well with the modern layout with the curved screen setups, the slim vents and the horizontal accents. While panel gaps and fitments could be tighter, something we noticed with the new Creta too, the textures around the steering wheel and armrests feel of a better quality than in the Creta with the materials that have been used. Now again, while this looks very similar to the Creta, there have been some changes. This arrangement here I think is somewhat of a step down. All those really nice tactile physical controls from the Creta have now been replaced by these capacitive panels. Yes, you still have controls for the climate and the audio, but just these capacitive panels, they really don't do it for me. Now it's nice that they're large buttons, so that helps, but really nowhere close to as nice as they were in the Creta. On the flip side, the new central column is now better to use. You have larger, well-designed layouts for some of the important functions that are still here. Also, a good addition is that the center armrest now slides and makes for more comfort during driving. Of course, this car is meant to be for the chauffeur-driven set, so to speak. So, a lot of the differentiation anyway comes from here, but we'll quickly go through how that works. Now, to start with, the seats, they're different from what you get in the Creta. Now, these two seats seem very, very similar except for the headrest. But just the kind of support they have and the cushioning and the contouring seems very different from what the Creta offers, and it is definitely a step up. Now, where things get better is that you get a recline function. Now, this is there from the last Alcazar, so that's not quite different. But you also now get ventilation function in the rear seat, the second row of seats. You get these winged headrests, and of course this squab. Now, this squab for me particularly doesn't work all that well. There's not that much range, so I could either do with or without it. It's not much of a question for me. And in terms of legroom, I have decent space for myself. Maybe someone who is 6 feet or over may find that it's a bit cramped, not a whole deal bigger than the Creta. It's in fact maybe slightly less than the 5-seater Creta, possibly because the seat has been pushed forward to accommodate the third row. But you now get this really quite neat boss function. I mean, the Tucson is the only other Hyundai that gets it, so you know that this is a pretty high-end feature. And when you do have your seat like this, then there's more than enough space for your needs, for pretty much any needs. Now, again, the headroom is pretty decent for my needs. Again, someone maybe slightly taller will want for more. And you have the other features that have been carried over from the Creta, for example, these sunshades, these two Type-C chargers and wireless charger that's been quite neatly integrated into the cubbyhole. Now, needless to say, all of this isn't in the same sort of space as the Creta, and there has been a wheelbase extension. It's about 150 mm longer than the regular Creta. The new Alcazar continues with the Hyundai tradition of offering a long features list with some new additions over the Creta. Here's a look at what's on offer. The safety features are largely the same as the Creta. Now, this being the captain seat 6-seater version of the Alcazar, getting into the third row is a bit of a hassle, to be honest. Now, I can't really do it from here. The space is really quite tight, and just the whole angle of it with the wheel well, it's not very comfortable at all. But Hyundai has made some change here. Like earlier, there used to be a small center console arrangement here, which actually held the wireless charger, but that's been removed. So one way of getting in now is to just walk through the cabin here. Now again, of course it's not very elegant at all, and the space is best reserved for children if they have to walk in like this. But when you do come in here, you realize that space is not all that bad. I mean, yeah, I have this seat fully pushed back. This is not a full-size 3-row SUV, but yes, if you are an adult, you will be cramped here, and it's best left for children in my opinion. Now, there have been some improvements here. the seat back has been scooped out, so you have just a smidge more legroom, and that's the same with those front seats as well. So legroom overall has grown on both the rows. And yeah, if I were to sort of just slide this a bit forward, I mean, this is how much legroom you see I can actually have, but it's otherwise typically quite like these third rows in any other car. So yeah, I don't have much in the way of thigh support. As you can see, my knees are pretty high up, and I must say I can tuck my feet in. That's not that much of a problem, and I can also raise this headrest and it's fine. Now headroom is a serious problem. I'm not very tall, and for me too there's only about this much space. So yeah, if you're of above average height, you will find that to be an issue here. Maybe you'll have to crouch forward. But I must say Hyundai has done well with amenities here too. You get AC vents, you get Type-C charge ports for each passenger, and even a control for the blower. It's not bad, and lights. Priced between rupees 14.99 lakh and rupees 21.55 lakh, the Alcazar costs up to rupees 1.4 lakh more than the Creta for the top versions. There could have been a touch more space for this in the second and third row, and a bit more differentiation in the dash design. But otherwise, this seems like a fair deal for the added features you get, the slightly more premium sense you get inside and out, and the competent driving experience that's on offer.